I have so much work to do.
In part 1, I took you through the initial stages of this little half-track build, so if you haven't seen that, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. But today, I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks I use to finish the build and get you to the priming stage. So let's get cracking.
Let's get cracking!
Minor chipping is applied around the cabin with a sponge and a black-brown acrylic paint. Now it's important to think about logical areas of wear, like in and around the storage bin and around leading edges of the shapes. The chipping should be refined and reasonably understated, and is only there to add some variation in the finish and help add a sense of realism more than representing an actual chip. The black-brown works beautifully over those grey tones. To create soil and dirt buildup on the inside of the cabin, dry pigment was moved around into the edges and the corners. European earth was the main colour, but was also enhanced with a small amount of Russian earth. Then to loosely hold it in place, a white spirit was let migrate through that pigment through capillary action. The white spirit will offer a very weak bond, but it will give us a look at the result and should be able to give us the ability to modify it somewhat should we choose. Which is what I do now using an old brush. I scrub away at the floor, focusing on removing that build up around high traffic areas. Moistening the brush with a white spirit will help move that pigment, and a cotton bud can also be used to remove more of that effect. I'd pre-painted the figure and fit it in place at this stage because I got the feeling that trying to fit it once everything had been assembled would be extremely difficult. So he was set in place, and the back of the seat, which kept getting knocked off, was actually glued to his back. The side walls could then be installed, and removing glue from contact points is important prior to gluing these parts, as it can potentially compromise that joint. Seagrass is clipped into small pieces and mixed with a pot of scatter and distributed around that floor section now. I also added some overpriced laser cut decaying leaves. This is just about adding an organic looking material to the floor. This matter is then moved around like the pigment at the previous step was, and was held in place with a VMS sand and ballast freeze. This is an acrylic product that is left to migrate through the debris, and once dry should set it in place. Unfortunately, it tended to stain the pigment deposit and should have been done prior to me fitting those pigments. It didn't look bad, it just wasn't what I was wanting and will need to be softened out by grinding some more dry pigment. You may have also noticed I'd added detail to that stowage bin. This was done using a 2-part putty to create a tarp. It can then be worked into the bin with a brush moistened with tap water. Now try to think about the natural flow of a tarp and how it might fall, but then sort of exaggerate it. Having flaps and folds hanging over make for a more interesting element. It just has to be plausible. And once in place, the bin can then be filled with various bits and pieces from the spares box just to make it look busy. I also like to add additional tarps to build up bulk over that section. These sculpted tarps are a great way to fill a space and add a flowing organic element to that area. After around 24 hours, that putty will harden, so that section could then be painted using a fine brush and acrylics. As a general rule, if I have multiple layered elements, I try to paint the lower ones in the darkest color tones and the highest ones in the lighter colours. It helps define the parts and create a visual lift over that assembly. I then use the airbrush to highlight some of these elements. However, that does require a high degree of control, so proceed with caution. Before I could attach that top section to the underside, I had to install the rifles in the gun rack. These were pre-painted. 2 were base coated in a red brown and 2 were base coated in a cork brown. A shadow brown oil paint could then be dragged over the part with an unstructured flat brush to create a grain of sorts. The butts of the rifles need to be pressed firmly through that bracket though, and failing to do that will cause issues with the placement of the etch guard on the side wall. This is an assembly that would have been best to have been completed off the model, so you may want to consider that if you're building this for yourself. In one last round of weathering before I seal this beast up, a brown enamel wash is used through the stowage and then around the floor elements. And for the grey tones, the Tamiya black panel liner really brought that section to life. This essentially is a pre-thinned enamel wash, and any excess can be easily cleaned using a cotton bud moistened with white spirit. Removing the paint from the mating points is again a pretty important thing to do, and the easiest way to do that is with isopropyl alcohol or a lacquer thinner on a cotton bud and running it over the surfaces. Now my top section seemed to have a bit of a warp and required a degree of force to help it connect with the underside. Superglue was used as this would give me a strong and fast bond and help me muscle my way through those connection points. I found the same issues for the front and back armor plates, but with a little manipulation and the super glue, everything was soon bullied into position. The side rails had been pre-assembled and could be installed now. I found the gap the connection points left to be quite wide and deep, so a covering of Mr. Surface of 500 was applied with the excess, once dry of course, being removed with a cotton bud and lacquer thinner. Now I'm not looking to fill that joint, but rather soften the look of it. The kit comes with bedrolls and stowage, and while the sculpts look really nice, there is no getting around that stiff, unforgiving nature of an injection molded part. So I thought I'd give making the bedrolls a try for myself. Now it might come as a surprise, but I've never actually made bedrolls before. Tarps, plenty of times, yes, but I've always found actual rolled up stowage quite intimidating. You've been watching the green stuff putty come together on screen, and I found the best way to do this once it was rolled out was to fold the side edges over on themselves and then proceed to roll the sheet up. Straps or ties were then added using either a lead wire or a lead sheet cut into fine strips. The roll can then be integrated over the model. Now, having the ability to have it draping over the shapes gives it weight and volume, which is something the styrene roll just can't give. I can then use a silicone brush to add wrinkles and folds to enhance the look. Honestly, this was surprisingly easy and was super enjoyable. And once I refine my techniques, I'll look to add a full tutorial around it. Home stretch now, and I paint the wheels. Back to the acrylics, and a mix of black, grey and graphite give me the rubber colour that I'm looking for. By using a toothpick as my handle and a gentle roll through my fingers, it's doing the bulk of the work and is a quick and easy hack when painting your wheels. Now over to the tracks, and there are 38 links per side for the track lengths, and if care is taken with the assembly, they should remain workable. Now cleaning the connection points over these parts again is crucial, especially on the small connection blocks. The gluable areas are very small and tolerances are tight, so ensuring the part is clean and tidy will be your best chance of success. Now you may want to consider making yourself a small jig to aid in the assembly, however I found it easy enough to build them up resting on my fingertips. Now in saying that, I will be using metal tracks for my build simply because I had them in the stash. Assembly of these was a little quicker than the kit supplied tracks, mainly due to the cleanup required when removing those kit supplied tracks from the sprues. But in terms of workability and detail, the kit supplied parts are more than acceptable and really of a very high standard. Burnishing the white metal tracks should be viewed as a process that prepares your tracks for further painting, as the results can be a little unpredictable at times. Granted, we might get lucky and get a look that we can work with, or at least work from that as a foundation, but it's never a guarantee. Now I find stabbing at the tracks with a stiff brush with a burnishing fluid is better than dropping them in a bath of it, because it helps the fluid get into the little nooks and crannies. But more than that, it doesn't waste a heap of that fluid like it would by using it in a bath. After only a few minutes, the tracks could then be run underwater and dried off. Now comparing the metal tracks and the kit supplied tracks here, there really isn't a great deal of difference, as I mentioned, other than the weight to them. The effect is enhanced and unified with a thin mix of black and red brown to deepen the tones and address any areas where super glue had impacted that burnishing fluid. The rubber pads on the tracks are then painted and the tracks are ready to be test fit, and with that I'm calling the interior and the assembly stages complete. A little kit like this early war half-track can often be easy to underestimate due to its size, and in this case, underestimated due to its price tag. For around $40 last time I looked, you get a lot of plastic in this box and you really do get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of the time required to bring it to life. This is a kit that without careful planning and thought will catch you out. Working in sub-assemblies and pre-painting parts is crucial in order to be able to execute on a model like this. In saying that, it's nice to be able to invest that time into something that people will actually be able to see. So often as armor modelers, we spend weeks painting and detailing the interiors of our tanks to then seal them up and be lucky to even catch a glimpse of them again through an open hatch. I guess that's the reason a lot of modelers shy away from full interior kits. Is that something you do, or do you like the idea of a full interior? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. But this model is far from done, and it's now going to be about creating an integrated look from the interior to the exterior and weathering it to finish it off. This really is an impressive little kit, and seeing it come together like this is extremely rewarding. As always, a huge thanks to my Patreons. I really couldn't do it without you guys. Now, I've introduced a new budget tier over there as well, my Combat Koalas. Now, this is a tier for those of you looking to support what I do on a budget. Now, any support is greatly appreciated as it helps me cover the costs in bringing you this content. Next stage in this build, I'll take you from the priming to the finished model, and I can honestly guarantee you won't be disappointed. So remember guys, this is the greatest hobby in the world. Share it with your family and share it with your friends, and let's be proud of what we do. Until next time, I'll see you soon.
It's like running a double marathon.